police stations?
Yes, I'm yet to see a desktop computer in the DPO's office. The DPO requires these things. The constable at the counter requires these things. When you have an IT culture and then you bring a level of sophistication that is IT dependent and foist it upon that system, it works.
What if it's outsourced?
Outsourcing at the end of the day still will remain a function of that pointsman at the road knowing his way around software.
You know, at the end of the day, because what we do when you're asked to register right now,
yes,
your CMRs, go to Central, get your CMR paper. You just get a paper, and usually when the police check, they just check. I mean, they know what it looks like. If you have a fake,
that's an analog one, right?
Exactly. How do they know? But as it is currently, the police say we just have a room full of papers. Nobody knows. Nobody can search. Nobody can do anything with that. You know, so we don't know if that device, that handheld device, will be deployed to actually read people's cards. Because, you know, they always start with these laudable ideas. Even we're also told here in Lagos State that it's a lastma. We're also supposed to be holding a similar looking device, you know, on the roads. But nobody has ever seen it. But we do know that if you go to a police station, the auto reg office, for instance, and you need to impute your data, that you can impute data and it would actually come out. So do we really need to get to that level of sophistication for us to be able to say, police, you're allowed to have a database, at least a computerized database, where we can put in all information concerning cars?
Well, if you ask me, I will say not yet. Because the concerns are many. A lot of them are sensitive. We can't really take on them here. But let me give you one of those sensitive concerns. Your biodata are actually what we call virtual particulars of yourself. They are sensitive information about you. How would you like to have such sensitive information about you reposed in the custody of someone who has a propensity to rent his weapon out?
Now you're going into history, I guess.
Yes. We're using antecedents. You see, everything we do should be a function of, do we have a history of doing things well? You see, having done little things properly, you can ask for bigger things. Now, how would you feel, Chamberlain, if you were sitting here and everything about you, your name, your dad's name, your mom's name, your house address, your fingerprints, your facials, your next of kin, the registration number of your vehicle, your bank account numbers, those sensitive particulars of your individual person is residing somewhere where you are not sure somebody couldn't possibly walk in and say, hey, here's 200,000. Give us a download on this guy.
You know, we also raised that fear when we had to register our SIM cards. I remember very clearly that, you know, we're a little apprehensive, and we actually commissioned a report on it here at Channels Television, because now if you have 3 phones, you will have registered that phone at least 3 times.
Yes.
And if there were 3 different people, you have to register with the 3 different companies that your information is with. So aren't we already facing that risk? You go to immigration, you get your data, your bio, you know, information is captured. You want to buy a phone, your bio information is captured. You want to, what else do you have to do again? You want to register INEC.
Yeah.
Your bio information is captured. It will seem that, you know, it's just
everywhere.
everywhere. It's just out there
indeed.
for whoever is asking, because nobody is talking about the security of this data. So isn't that where we should focus on?
Confidentiality.
Exactly. Rather than, you know, saying,
yes.
does the police have the right in the very first instance, or should they be gathering the information?
I want to go to the banks, for example. The banks have a stake. The banks run a business. And they will want to ensure that confidentiality as an issue doesn't arise, or else they know what will happen to the business. So it becomes a very sensitive, you know, point. Now, for the police force, what I'm trying to make you understand here is, it's not as if the police cannot have access to biodata, but it could be pulled centrally. If from a central depository you had to access that kind of information, certain clearances have to be gotten. Now, the central depository will also have the facility to trace the source that is actually querying the system for this information.
Okay, so this is as opposed to, say, every security outfit or unit having that data, and then this central measure cannot be applied to each and every one of them.
No. What I'm trying to say is every security agency has access to the data.
And not having their own
Exactly.
data.
We don't exclusify it to them exclusively. Look at it from this perspective. The police may decide we are talking vehicles. How many Nigerians have vehicles? Not all of us. But then, all vehicles are people-driven. So the human individual actually becomes the bottom line of that data. And so long as you have everybody captured on the data, that will include those who have cars, those who will soon have cars, and those who don't have cars yet. So if we have that central depository not being the baby of any particular agency, we are much less likely to see abuses. That's on the one side. The second side is the question of feasibility, and that brings us back to what Maupe said. The banks, for example, have taken your biodata. They know what confidentiality means, and if they lose your confidence, they know what will happen. Okay? So they do what they have to do to ensure that confidentiality remains optimal. Okay? They may not have 100%, but they will get close to that. Now, where you have 6 security agencies across board, and each of them has your biodata, and suddenly you discover that somebody somewhere has known your next of kin and taken him for a fee. If I know your next of kin, I know that he's your next of kin because somewhere along the line you are emotionally attached. It could be your son, your daughter. And if I get that information into the wrong hands, they know that we are most likely going to get his attention if we have this one above that one. Now you are not going to feel safe.
Let me break it down.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm having the wrong thinking here. Are we putting this on the premise of stories in the past where people say they volunteered information? Perhaps maybe you go to a neighborhood police station and the next thing someone comes to your house to knock and say, we understand you're the one who has actually come to say it is this or that. Is that what you mean by confidentiality?
Exactly. Not entirely. But you see, if today we were actually going to make you head a media-related panel, I think we can begin to draw from your antecedents, from what you've been able to do properly in the past and successfully, to measure what we think you should be able to achieve going forward. Okay? Now, what I'm trying to say is that, first and foremost, before you can begin to give such sensitive information out, you have to be very, very cautious. Let's not begin to do something with more only to achieve less. Let's not begin to try to fortify Nigerians, then we end up creating a Frankenstein. We have to see a police force that is first and foremost more people-oriented, more IT savvy. Okay? If we go a bit psychological, let's do a little bit of psychology here. If you impose this thing we call Maslow's hierarchy of needs on the police force, let's start from the bottom. Physiological needs, housing, water, shelter. Think police college some few months ago. That's the cradle where the eggs are hatched. We all saw it. Now we go to the next one, safety, security. Are these policemen any safer than we are? Do they have the right equipment? Is there a parity in their weapons and that of the crime world? We can continue. Self-esteem, for example, is on that ladder. Is the policeman really accepted? Now, if you cannot get these things well seated, and you give a man something as sensitive as a database, he's going to use what he has to get what he wants.
So how can we help them then?
Make it central. I'm looking at, say, the National Intelligence Agency having sole custodianship of that database. The customs, the immigrations, everybody can feed into it and everybody can draw from it.
Well, we didn't raise these concerns when the FRSC was going to be capturing biodata for driver's license.
Yes, the FRSC, the Road Safety started it. novel, wonderful. Somebody had that idea.